The Galactic Confederation representatives sat across from Admiral Park, their elongated limbs folded in what humans had learned was a gesture of superiority. The meeting room aboard Earth's orbital station felt too warm for the humans, but still too cold for the aliens. This was their 5th diplomatic session since first contact 3 months ago. "Your species is quite ambitious," said the lead diplomat, Ambassador Tulax. His translucent skin shifted colors as he spoke, pulsing with faint blues and purples, but perhaps too young to understand galactic politics. Admiral Park maintained her composure despite the insult. Her 20 years in Earth's combined space force had taught her patience. Beside her, Captain Kim leaned forward, his dark eyes narrowing slightly. "With respect, Ambassador, we've noticed your peacekeeping vessels seem reluctant to engage with actual threats," Captain Kim said. He tapped his datapad, bringing up reports from the outer colonies. 3 separate pirate attacks on our mining operations. Your ships were in the area each time. Tulax's skin darkened. "We observe a strict non-interference policy with developing species. You must learn to solve your own problems." Admiral Park exchanged glances with Defense Minister Han. They had suspected as much. The Confederation had impressive technology, but seemed strangely unwilling to use it. Their massive ships patrolled human space, scanning everything, yet helping with nothing. "Then perhaps you could share defensive technologies with us," Minister Han suggested. "If we must defend ourselves, we should have the tools." The alien delegation chittered among themselves, a sound the translation software couldn't process. Finally, Ambassador Tulax responded. "We could consider limited technology transfer. Basic shields, perhaps. Nothing weapons-grade, of course. Young species require supervision." Captain Kim's jaw tightened, but Admiral Park placed a warning hand on his arm. "We appreciate the consideration," she said diplomatically. "Earth will review any proposal." The meeting ended with vague promises and no commitments. As the alien delegation departed, Admiral Park remained in the conference room with her team. "They have no intention of helping us," Captain Kim said once they were alone. "They treat us like children." Admiral Park moved to the window, watching the sleek Confederation vessel detach from the station. Compared to human ships, it was a marvel, seamless, almost organic in design. "No, they don't see us as children," she said quietly. "Children are valued and protected. They see us as competition, potential rivals to be managed." Minister Han joined her at the window. "The Harbinger project needs to be accelerated. If they won't protect us and won't arm us, then we'll protect ourselves," Admiral Park finished. 3 days later, Admiral Park was awakened by an emergency alert. The Proxima colony, one of humanity's most distant outposts, was under attack. She rushed to the command center, still pulling on her uniform jacket. The tactical display showed the situation clearly. A colony of 15,000 people was being systematically attacked by 6 unmarked vessels. Mining facilities exploded one by one. Residential domes were being breached. "Status of our response," she demanded. "The nearest human vessel is the destroyer Tokyo," reported Officer Bai from the communication station. 4 hours out at maximum burn." "Too long," Admiral Park muttered. Then she noticed something. "What are those?" She pointed to 3 large signatures in orbit around Proxima. Captain Kim's expression darkened. "Confederation vessels. The Luminous Path, the Stellar Harmony, and the Peaceful Observer. They arrived for routine observations yesterday." "And they're doing nothing?" Admiral Park asked, though she already knew the answer. "They've issued a standard non-interference notification. They're just watching." The room fell silent as the implication sank in. On the display, another residential dome went dark, representing hundreds of civilian lives lost. "Open a channel to the Confederation fleet," Admiral Park ordered. Ambassador Tulax's face appeared on the main screen. He appeared calm, almost bored. "Admiral Park, how may I assist?" You can assist by defending those colonists, she said, struggling to keep her voice level. Your ships have the firepower to end this attack in minutes. The alien's skin rippled with yellow patterns. As we explained, we maintain a strict policy of non-interference with developing species conflicts. These are clearly internal matters. Internal. Captain Kim interrupted. Those are pirate vessels attacking our civilians. You scanned them yourself yesterday. You know they're not human ships. The attackers use modified human mining vessels. Tulax replied smoothly. This appears to be a resource dispute between your corporations. The Confederation cannot involve itself in economic conflicts. Admiral Park leaned forward. People are dying while you watch. If you won't help them, let us borrow one of your ships. We'll crew it and save our people. Impossible. Confederation technology cannot be operated by non-member species. I'm afraid you must wait for your own vessels to arrive. The communication ended. Admiral Park stared at the blank screen, then at the tactical display where more sections of the colony were going dark. Get me the president, she said quietly, and contact the Harbinger team. As of now, their project is our absolute top priority. Hours later, the Tokyo arrived at Proxima Colony. The pirates had already left, their holds full of stolen resources. Over 3,000 colonists were dead. The 3 Confederation vessels remained in orbit, recording everything. The Tokyo's captain sent back footage that was broadcast across Earth and all human colonies. It showed the massive, gleaming Confederation ships hanging in space above the ruined colony. It showed the recovery teams pulling bodies from destroyed habitats, and it showed the Confederation observers still scanning, still watching, still doing nothing. The footage ended with a Confederation shuttle landing to collect research samples from the colony ruins. In her office, Admiral Park watched the president's address to humanity. The older woman spoke with cold fury about the tragedy and the lesson it represented. Today we learned a harsh truth about our place in the galaxy. We stand alone. The Confederation has made it clear they will watch as our people die. She paused, then continued with steel in her voice. Effective immediately, I am authorizing full funding for the Harbinger project and all associated defense initiatives. Humanity will not be left defenseless again. We will build our own shields. We will forge our own path among the stars. Admiral Park turned off the screen and opened a secure channel to the hidden shipyard in the asteroid belt where the Harbinger was being constructed. Captain Kim's face appeared. I saw the address, he said. The engineering team is already working double shifts. Triple them, Admiral Park replied. The Confederation isn't here to help us, Captain. I think they're assessing whether we're a threat. With the Harbinger, we will be, Captain Kim said, a grim smile forming on his face. Admiral Park nodded. That's the idea. They've shown us what kind of galaxy we're really in. Now we show them what humans do when backed into a corner. As the call ended, she looked out her window at the distant stars. The Confederation had taught humanity a harsh lesson about their new allies. But humanity had always been good at learning, adapting, and surviving. Soon, they would understand just how dangerous a young species could be. Hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, the secret shipyard floated in the darkness of space. From the outside, it looked like just another mining operation. Inside, 5,000 engineers and workers labored day and night on humanity's answer to the Galactic Confederation's indifference. The shield integration is complete, Chief Engineer Lee reported, his hands moving rapidly over the holographic display. But I still maintain our advantage is speed, not protection. Director Choi nodded, admiring the sleek lines of the Harbinger. Unlike the bulky Confederation vessels, humanity's first true warship was designed around human intuition, quick, adaptive, and unpredictable. They expect us to copy their designs, she said, running her hand along the prototype's hull. They don't understand that humans have always excelled when following our own path. The Harbinger looked nothing like the rounded, smooth ships of the Confederation. It was angular, with sharp edges and a pointed bow. Where alien vessels glowed with energy fields, the Harbinger absorbed light, its special coating making it difficult to see against the blackness of space. Admiral Park will be here tomorrow for the demonstration, Engineer Lee said, checking his watch. We need to make sure the jump drive works perfectly. The jump drive was their greatest secret, while Confederation ships used standard faster-than-light travel that followed predictable paths. Humans had developed something different. The jump drive could move a ship instantly from one point to another, with no travel time between. It was based on theories that the aliens had dismissed as impossible. Let's run the simulation again, Director Choi ordered. The holographic display changed to show a model of the Harbinger facing 5 Confederation vessels. In the simulation, the human ship disappeared and reappeared behind the alien fleet, firing its weapons before jumping away again. The aliens think in straight lines, Lee explained to the new engineers watching the demonstration. Their tactical doctrines are built around formations and energy weapons, but human warfare has always been about surprise and adaptation. One young engineer raised her hand. But their shields are much stronger than anything we can build. How will our weapons get through? Lee smiled. Simple. We don't use energy weapons like they do. He pointed to another display showing the Harbinger's main weapons, railguns that fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Their shields are designed to stop energy. We're sending 20-kilogram tungsten rods at them at 30% the speed of light. Kinetic energy. Old school. Hits like a small nuclear bomb but without the radiation. Director Choi added, plus we have the gravity spikes. This was another human innovation. Small devices that could briefly intensify or disrupt gravitational fields. Useless against humans who had evolved on a high-gravity world, but potentially devastating to species from lighter worlds. The Confederation thinks technology must be elegant and advanced, Choi said. We know sometimes the old ways work best, especially when your enemy isn't expecting them. The next day, Admiral Park arrived with Captain Kim and a small delegation from Earth's government. They wore simple uniforms without the elaborate decorations that Confederation officials favored. They had learned that in space, practicality mattered more than appearance. Show me what you've accomplished, Admiral Park said after brief greetings. Director Choi led them through the Harbinger. Unlike alien ships with their spacious corridors and artistic designs, the human vessel was compact and utilitarian. Every cubic meter was used efficiently. The bridge is designed for human reaction times, Choi explained as they entered the command center. All controls are within arm's reach. The neural interface allows the captain to feel the ship as an extension of their body. Captain Kim sat in the command chair, placing his hands on the neural pads. The ship's systems lit up, connecting to his mind. It's incredible, he said, his eyes widening. I can sense every part of the vessel. Admiral Park nodded with approval. And the crew requirements? 20. Director Choi answered. Instead of the hundreds needed on Confederation ships, we've automated what we can and designed everything else around human strengths. They continued the tour, examining the jump drive engine room, the weapons systems, and the armor designed to absorb and disperse energy attacks. What about comfort for long missions? Admiral Park asked, noting the tight quarters. Chief Engineer Lee pointed to special pods built into the walls. Hibernation units. The crew can enter suspended animation for long journeys, with only minimal personnel needed to monitor systems. It saves space, food, and oxygen. Innovative, the Admiral commented. The Confederation would never consider it. They value luxury too much. As they returned to the observation deck, they could see the massive form of the Harbinger through the windows. Workers in spacesuits crawled over its surface, making final adjustments. When will it be ready? Admiral Park asked. 3 weeks, Director Choi answered. We're scheduled for the first jump test tomorrow. Suddenly, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. A security officer rushed into the room. Director, We've detected a Confederation scout ship entering the asteroid belt. They're scanning this sector. The room fell silent. Discovery now would be disastrous. The Harbinger wasn't ready for combat, and the Confederation had made it clear they didn't want humans developing advanced military technology. How long until they're in range to detect us? Admiral Park asked calmly. 15 minutes at their current speed. Director Choi looked at Chief Engineer Lee. Can we move the Harbinger? Hide it behind one of the larger asteroids. Lee shook his head. The maneuvering thrusters aren't installed yet. We'd need to tow it, and that would take hours. Captain Kim, still connected to the ship's systems, spoke up. What about the jump drive? You said the test was tomorrow. It's installed but untested. Lee replied. We don't know if it will work, and we haven't programmed any jump coordinates. Program it now, Admiral Park ordered. Just a short jump, enough to hide the Harbinger. The engineering team rushed to their stations. Technicians were called back from the ship itself. For 10 tense minutes, they worked frantically to prepare the jump drive. We need someone on board to activate it manually, Lee finally reported. The remote systems aren't connected yet. Without hesitation, Captain Kim stood up. I'll do it. It's too dangerous. Director Choi protested. If the drive malfunctions, then we lose one captain instead of our only advanced warship, Kim replied firmly. The Harbinger is too important. Admiral Park nodded her approval. Go. Minutes later, Captain Kim was aboard the Harbinger in a pressure suit. The ship was only partially pressurized, with many systems still exposed to vacuum. Confederation vessel 5 minutes from detection range, came the update over the comm. In the engine room, Captain Kim connected his neural interface directly to the jump drive. He felt the strange mathematics of space-time folding become part of his consciousness. Jump coordinates received, he reported. Initiating jump in 3, 2, 1. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the massive ship shuddered. A sphere of distorted space formed around it, and the Harbinger simply vanished. In the observation deck, Admiral Park and the others stared at the empty space where humanity's first true warship had been. Did it work? Someone whispered. Chief Engineer Lee checked his instruments. The Harbinger has reappeared exactly where we planned, behind asteroid XJ42, completely hidden from the Confederation scanner path. A cheer went up from the staff. On the comm, Captain Kim's voice came through. Jump successful. Admiral, the drive works perfectly. Admiral Park smiled. The Confederation has no idea what's coming. They think we're centuries behind them technologically. They don't understand that necessity drives innovation, and humans have always been at our best when challenged. They expect us to copy their designs. Director Choi repeated her earlier observation. They don't understand that humans have always excelled when following our own path. As the Confederation scout ship passed harmlessly by, unaware of what had just happened, humanity took its first real step toward changing the balance of power in the galaxy. The colony world of New Terra trembled as Confederation warships entered orbit. Their massive hulls blotted out the sun as they positioned themselves above the main settlement. On the ground, 10,000 human colonists looked up with fear. 3 days earlier, the Confederation Council had announced a protective quarantine of New Terra. They claimed the colony was at risk of destabilizing influences and needed supervision. In reality, it was humanity's most resource-rich world, with rare minerals the Confederation coveted. When the colonists refused to accept Confederation authority, the aliens sent their warships. Aboard the Lid Confederation vessel, Admiral Velix observed the human settlement through viewing screens. Such primitive defenses, he noted to his officers. They have only basic shield generators and a few orbital platforms. This will be simple. One of his officers approached. Admiral, we have detected an unknown ship approaching at high speed. It does not match any known human vessel design. Velix dismissed the concern with a wave of his long, 6-fingered hand. Humans have no ships capable of challenging us. Proceed with the landing. 200,000 kilometers away, the Harbinger dropped out of faster-than-light travel. On the bridge, Captain Kim studied the tactical display showing 5 Confederation warships in formation above New Terra. "Status report," he ordered. "All systems operational." Chief Engineer Lee responded from the engine room. "The jump drive is hot and ready." "Weapons primed," Tactical Officer Bai added. "Kinetic batteries charged at 100%. Captain Kim turned to Navigation Officer Yoon at the helm station. "Remember your training. Short jumps, unpredictable patterns." She nodded, her hands steady on the controls. Though only 28 years old, Yoon had shown remarkable skill in the simulator, handling the experimental jump drive better than pilots with decades more experience. Kim opened a channel to the colony below. "New Terra, this is Captain Kim of the Harbinger. We're here to prevent this illegal occupation. Please activate your shields and move your people to the emergency bunkers." The colony leader's voice came back, filled with relief. "Captain, thank God you're here. But it's just one ship against 5 of theirs." "One is all we need," Kim replied confidently. Kim out. He turned to his crew of 20. "The best Earth had to offer. This is what we trained for. The Confederation doesn't respect us because they've never seen what humans can really do. Today, we show them." The crew nodded, faces determined. Many had lost friends or family in the Proxima Colony massacre that the Confederation had simply watched happen. "Combat positions," Kim ordered. "Navigation, plot jump to position Alpha." Officer Yoon's fingers danced across her console. "Coordinates set. Jump." The stars blurred as the Harbinger vanished from its position, the jump drive bending space itself. For the crew, there was a moment of disorientation as reality shifted around them. "Micro jump complete," Navigation Officer Yoon announced, her voice steady despite the crushing forces. The Harbinger materialized directly behind the rearmost Confederation cruiser, its position impossible according to alien combat doctrine. In the Confederation Navy, ships always maintained formation and approached from predictable vectors. The idea of instantaneously appearing behind an enemy was outside their tactical thinking. Captain Kim didn't hesitate. "Fire main kinetic batteries." Officer Bai pressed the firing controls. Along the Harbinger's spine, magnetic accelerators activated. 6 tungsten rods, each weighing 20 kilograms, were launched at 30% the speed of light. The ship shuddered from the recoil. The tungsten rod slammed into the enemy vessel at relativistic speeds, tearing through shields calibrated to stop energy weapons. The alien ship's aft section crumpled, atmosphere venting into space. Its engines died immediately. On the Confederation flagship, Admiral Velix stared in shock at the tactical display. "Impossible. How did they appear there? And what weapons are those?" "Sir, the Steadfast Light has lost engine power and life support," an officer reported. "They report multiple hull breaches and are abandoning ship. All vessels, target that human ship," Velix ordered. 4 more Confederation ships turned, their energy cannons powering up. They moved to surround the Harbinger's position. On the Harbinger's bridge, Tactical Officer Bay reported, "Enemy vessels locking weapons. They're trying to box us in." "Jump again," ordered Kim. "Let's show them how humans fight." Officer Yoon activated the jump drive again. The Harbinger vanished just as energy beams converged on its previous location. This time, they reappeared directly above the Confederation flagship. Before the aliens could react, another salvo of kinetic rods punched through the larger vessel's command deck. The flagship's lights flickered as emergency systems activated. "Their flagship is damaged but operational," Tactical Officer Bay reported. "The other 3 ships are trying to predict our next jump point." Captain Kim smiled grimly. "They can't predict human thinking." Navigation, random jump pattern beta. The Harbinger jumped again, this time appearing beneath one of the remaining cruisers. Instead of firing kinetic rods, they launched a different weapon, gravity spikes. The small devices attached to the alien ship's hull and activated, creating localized gravity distortions. Inside the Confederation vessel, the artificial gravity went haywire. Some sections experienced 3 times normal gravity, crushing the alien crew members evolved for lower gravity worlds. Other sections lost gravity entirely, sending equipment and personnel tumbling. 2 enemy ships retreating to long range. Officer Bai announced. They're out of effective weapons range. The remaining Confederation vessel fired desperately, a beam of energy grazing the Harbinger's hull. Minor damage to outer armor layer, reported Chief Engineer Lee from the engine room. The ablative coating did its job. No systems affected. Captain Kim leaned forward in his command chair. One more demonstration. Navigation. Jump to point Charlie. The Harbinger disappeared again, reappearing directly in front of the last fighting Confederation ship. At this range, barely 500 meters, the aliens had no time to react. Fire all remaining kinetic batteries, Kim ordered. The tungsten rods tore through the alien vessel from bow to stern. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as power systems failed catastrophically. Enemy vessel disabled. Tactical Officer Ba confirmed. They're losing atmosphere and power. Send this to all Confederation ships, Captain Kim said, opening a communication channel. This is Captain Kim of the Earth vessel Harbinger. Your illegal quarantine of New Terra is rejected. You have 30 minutes to retrieve your survivors and leave this system. Any Confederation vessel remaining after that time will be considered hostile. On the Confederation flagship, a badly injured Admiral Velex watched the recording of the battle in disbelief. In less than 10 minutes, a single human ship had disabled 3 of his vessels and forced 2 others to retreat. How? He asked no one in particular. Their technology should be centuries behind ours. His second-in-command, bleeding from a head wound, replied, They didn't copy our technology. They developed their own path. Velex made the only decision he could. Order all ships to pick up survivors and withdraw, and send a priority message to the High Council. The humans are not what we thought they were. On the Harbinger's bridge, the crew watched as the Confederation ships collected their escape pods and limped away from New Terra. Victory confirmed, Officer Bai announced. The bridge crew remained professional, but smiles broke out across their faces. Captain Kim opened a channel to New Terra. Colony secured. The Confederation forces are withdrawing. The colony leader's voice came back, filled with emotion. How? How did one ship defeat 5 of theirs? Kim looked around at his crew, Officer Yoon at navigation, Officer Bai at tactical, and the others at their stations. None of them were superhumans or geniuses. They were simply people who refused to accept the Confederation's judgment that humanity was inferior. We did it by being human, Kim replied. They expected us to think like them, to fight like them. We didn't. That's always been humanity's strength. As the Harbinger moved into orbit around New Terra, Captain Kim knew the battle had changed everything. News would spread across the galaxy. The invincible Confederation had been defeated by a single human ship. The battlefield had shifted, and humanity had just announced itself as a power to be reckoned with. 1 month after the Battle of New Terra, Captain Kim stood in Earth's orbital diplomatic station. Through the large viewing window, he could see the Harbinger docked nearby. Workers swarmed around it, repairing the minor damage and upgrading systems based on combat data. 3 more ships of the same design were under construction in the shipyards below. The door slid open, and Admiral Park entered with a strange being. It moved on 4 tentacle-like limbs, its body covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors as it moved. 2 large eyes on flexible stalks swiveled independently, taking in the room. Captain Kim, this is Ambassador Tulo of the Raxus Confederation, Admiral Park said. He requested this meeting specifically with you. Kim bowed slightly. The gesture they had learned was respectful to Raxus. Welcome to Earth space, Ambassador. The alien's body rippled, its version of a bow. The honor is mine, Captain Kim. Your name is known throughout the galaxy now. Kim gestured to the meeting table, and they all sat down. The Raxus settled on a special cushion designed for their unusual body shape. Ambassador Tulo's ship approached our outer defense perimeter yesterday, Admiral Park explained. They came under diplomatic flag and requested talks. The Raxus ambassador's tentacles quivered with excitement as he spoke. Your victory has changed everything. For centuries, the Confederation has dominated through technological superiority. Captain Kim remained cautious. We simply defended our colony. You did much more, the ambassador insisted. The Harbinger has become a symbol. 3 other species have already approached us about forming an alliance with humans. Kim and Park exchanged glances. This was unexpected. Earth had hoped the victory would make the Confederation respect human space, but they hadn't anticipated other species seeking alliances. Tell us about these other species, Admiral Park said. Ambassador Tulo projected a hologram from a device on his body. 3 alien races appeared: the insectoid Telari, the crystalline Vox, and the amphibious Nor. Like the Raxus, these species were forced into protective arrangements with the Confederation. We provide resources. They provide security we don't need. Tulo's voice contained unmistakable bitterness. For 200 years, we have searched for a way to break free, but none of us had the military capacity to challenge them. Until a Harbinger, Kim said, understanding dawning. Exactly. You showed that the Confederation is not invincible. Their technology can be defeated by innovative thinking. Tulo's eyes swiveled to focus directly on Kim. We want to learn from you and offer our own knowledge in return. Across the galaxy, in the Grand Council chamber on the Confederation capital world, a very different meeting was taking place. 200 representatives from the ruling species gathered in the tiered amphitheater. The atmosphere was tense. Supreme Counselor Varn, his age shown by the faded blue of his normally vibrant skin, called the emergency session to order. We face an unprecedented situation, he began, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. The human vessel designated Harbinger has defeated 3 of our warships and forced 2 others to retreat. The recording has spread to every corner of our territory. The chamber erupted in voices. Councillor Merrick's, a longtime advocate for stricter control of lesser species, rose to speak. This is the result of our leniency. We should have contained these humans when they first achieved spaceflight. Now we must crush them before others follow their example. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Then military strategist Kell approached the central podium. As the Confederation's top military mind, his opinion carried significant weight. I have analyzed the battle data, he said, his voice grave. The human ship used technology we deem theoretically impossible. Their jump drive does not follow the laws of physics as we understand them. He played the battle recording. The Council watched in silence as the Harbinger appeared and disappeared around the Confederation ships, striking from impossible angles. Furthermore, Kell continued, they did not use energy weapons as all advanced civilizations do. Instead, they used simple kinetic projectiles at speeds we did not think possible for a species at their development stage. How did they advance so quickly? Someone asked. Kell's expression darkened. They did not advance along the technological path we expected. Instead of copying our approach, they found their own way. This is concerning. Back on Earth, the meeting with Ambassador Tulo continued. Admiral Park had called in Director Choi and Chief Engineer Lee to join the discussion. We understand your interest in an alliance, Admiral Park said carefully, but we need to know more about what you're proposing. Tulo nodded. The Raxis excel in biological sciences. We can offer medical technology far beyond your current capabilities. The Telari are masters of quantum computing. The Vox can provide crystal technology that stores energy more efficiently than anything in the galaxy. And the Noor have atmospheric manipulation systems that could speed up the terraforming of your colony worlds. And in return, Director Choi asked. Military protection and ship design, Tulo said simply. We need vessels like the Harbinger, adapted to our physiologies. Chief Engineer Lee looked thoughtful. That's possible. The jump drive would work for any ship. The kinetic weapons, too. We'd need to modify the control systems for different species, but the principles are the same. For the next several hours, they discussed possibilities. By the end, the outline of an alliance was taking shape, one based on mutual respect rather than the Confederation's model of dominance and submission. As the meeting concluded, Captain Kim walked Ambassador Tulo to his ship. "May I see it?" Tulo asked, gesturing toward the Harbinger. Kim nodded and led the way to an observation deck with a better view. The ambassador stared at the human warship with all four eye stalks. "It looks nothing like Confederation designs," he noted. "That was intentional," Kim explained. "They expected us to copy them, to think like them. We knew we couldn't outbuild or outgun them, so we had to think differently." "That is why you succeeded where we failed," Tulo said. "The Confederation shaped our thinking for so long that we couldn't imagine alternatives. We needed an outside perspective." In countless locations across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening. Species that had long accepted Confederation dominance began to question it. Secret communications passed between worlds that had never before allied. The name Harbinger was whispered as a promise of change. On the Rax's homeworld, engineers examined the technical data shared by humans. On Tillari Prime, strategic planners studied the Battle of Nuterra. In the crystal cities of Vox, scientists worked to integrate their energy storage systems with human jump drive specifications. And on the Confederation capital, the Council finally reached a decision after nearly 20 hours of debate. "We cannot destroy the humans without risking rebellion from multiple species," Supreme Counselor Varn concluded. "We must adapt. Offer them membership in the Confederation. Genuine membership, not the controlled status we imposed on others." Counselor Merricks objected. "They will demand the same for their new allies." "Yes," Varn agreed, "and we will grant it. Better to welcome them as equals than face them as enemies." The Council voted. For the first time in 800 years, the Confederation would treat another species as a true equal. As Ambassador Tulo's ship departed Earth, Captain Kim returned to the Harbinger. The crew was preparing for its next mission, escorting human diplomatic vessels to the Rax's homeworld to formalize their alliance. "Did you ever imagine this?" Admiral Park asked, joining him on the bridge. "One battle, and the entire galactic order shifts." Kim looked at the tactical display showing dozens of Confederation worlds and the newly allied species scattered between them. "We didn't set out to change the galaxy," he said. "We just wanted to protect our people." "Sometimes protecting your own leads to something greater," Park replied. The Harbinger was just the beginning. She was right. The ripples from one battle were spreading across the galaxy, changing everything they touched. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not as supplicants, but as equals, and they had brought hope to countless others along the way. Here's an expanded version of the scene in simple English. The massive observation deck of the Harbinger stretched before Admiral Alina Park, her eyes taking in the incredible sight of ships from multiple species gathered together. Sleek human vessels stood side by side with the angular Raxus ships, the curved Telbar cruisers, and the metallic Novari spacecraft. Each ship represented a different civilization, now united in a way nobody could have predicted just years before. Director Marcus Choi approached her, his steps quiet against the polished floor. He looked out at the massive fleet, a hint of wonder in his eyes. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" he asked softly. Park shook her head. "When they first designed the Harbinger, it was meant to be a defensive weapon, a last hope for human survival. Now it had become something much more, a symbol of cooperation and shared understanding." Below them, the main conference hall buzzed with activity. Representatives from 27 different species moved carefully around each other, their various body shapes and communication methods creating a complex dance of diplomacy. Some walked on two legs, others glided, and a few even hovered slightly above the ground. The new galactic charter was more than just a piece of paper. It represented a fundamental shift in how civilizations would interact. No more would powerful species treat others as subjects or conquests. Instead, they would work together as equals, sharing knowledge, resources, and mutual respect. Park remembered the brutal wars that had nearly destroyed human civilization, the constant threats from alien species, the desperate battles, the countless lives lost. And now, somehow, they had transformed that violent history into something remarkable. The signing ceremony was about to begin. Delegates from each species wore their traditional diplomatic attire, some in elaborate robes, others in sleek environmental suits, and a few in what appeared to be living, moving fabric that adjusted to their body temperature and mood. Director Choi turned to Park. "We didn't just create a defense system," he said. "We created a new way of thinking about our place in the universe." She nodded, understanding the weight of those words. Humanity had started as a small, threatened species, fighting for survival. Now they were key architects of a galactic alliance that would change everything. As the first delegates began to sign the charter, holographic displays translated each signature into multiple languages and communication formats. It was a symbol of unity. Different species, different languages, but one shared goal of peaceful coexistence. The room felt charged with hope. Scientists who once would have been enemies were now sharing research. Military leaders who once planned invasions were now planning joint exploration missions. Cultural experts were designing programs to help different species understand each other. Park watched a Tulbar diplomat, a being with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like a living mood ring, carefully signing the document. Next to them, a human representative stood, both representing their species but acting as something more, galactic citizens. The Harbinger itself was a testament to this new reality. Built originally as the most advanced human warship, it was now a diplomatic platform, a place where different species could meet, discuss, and solve problems together. Outside the viewport, stars continued their ancient dance, indifferent to the historic moment happening inside. But for those present, everything had changed. The universe suddenly seemed larger and smaller at the same time, more complex, yet more connected. Director Choi placed a hand on Park's shoulder. "We did something extraordinary," he whispered. Park simply smiled. Words weren't necessary. The view before them, species from across the galaxy, working together, said everything that needed to be said. As the final signatures were completed, a soft cheer rose from the assembled delegates. It wasn't loud or aggressive, but a gentle sound of hope, of possibility, of a future where differences were celebrated instead of feared. Humanity had indeed reshaped the power structure of the galaxy, but more importantly, they had reshaped how intelligent life might view itself, not as isolated, competing groups, but as a vast, interconnected community with unlimited potential. The new Galactic Charter was more than a document. It was a promise of peace, of understanding, of a future where cooperation trumped conflict. And it all started here, on this day, in this moment.